We live in interesting times. Today's stories. EU leaders meet in Brussels for crisis talks on migration. Ethiopian football fans give blood to attack victims. Macron defends his French position on migrants. Palestine Liberation Organization Secretary General reacts to Jared Kushner's declarations. A firefighter says the Glasgow Arts coal fire is a devastating loss. Plus, full steam ahead for U.S. youngsters learning the art of science. Hello everyone, I am Rose Papa Angeles, bringing you stories from around the globe. And this is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. EU leaders headed to Brussels for emergency talks Sunday over migration as Italy's new populist cabinet turned away another rescue ship, vowing no longer to shoulder Europe's migrants' burden. The talks involving 16 of the bloc's 28 leaders aim to mend rifts over burden sharing, but also to shore up German Chancellor Angela Merkel, pressed by her own government to tighten up her liberal approach to asylum. The meeting was called last week to clear the air before a scheduled full summit on Thursday and Friday. With 4 Eastern anti-migrant EU countries snubbing the meeting, Merkel and other leaders have downplayed hopes of an EU-wide agreement, saying smaller ad hoc deals may be the only way forward. The urgency of finding a solution was highlighted by the plight of the Lifeline, the second rescue vessel left adrift in the Mediterranean after Italy and neighboring Malta refused it permission to dock. The German charity operating the ship, which is carrying 239 Africans, on Sunday took a swipe at Italy's far-right Interior Minister Matteo Salvini over his reference in a Facebook post to its consignment of human flesh. It is in a statement, quote, "Dear Matteo Salvini, we have no meat on board but humans." In a sign of the growing tensions within the EU, French President Emmanuel Macron suggested Saturday that countries who refuse to pull their weight on accepting asylum seekers should have their EU benefits cut. In a dig at Poland, Hungary, Slovenia, and the Czech Republic, he said countries that benefit massively from EU solidarity could not invoke national self-interest when it comes to the issue of migrants. The 4 former communist states who have ducked out of Sunday's talks have long been opposed to taking in migrants. Supporters from St. George Football Club in Addis Ababa gather at the Ethiopian Red Cross Society to donate blood to those injured during Saturday's grenade attack at a rally for new Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. A cabinet minister said the death toll for a grenade attack on a pro-government rally in Ethiopia's capital climbed to 2 on Sunday. A cabinet minister said as police announced arrests over the blast.
የተጎዱ ሰዎች ደግሞ መጽናናትን ይስጥልን የሞቱትን ነፍስ ይማር ለወገኖቻችን አለን ወደፊትም እንቀጥላለን በዚህም የሚያበቃ አይደለም
ሰላምን እየጠበቅን ባልታሰበ ሰዓት እንደ አይነት ነገር መፈጠሩ ወገኖቻችን ወደ መጉዳት ደረጃ መደረሱ ያው ከሰብአዊነት የማይጠበቅ ነው
The ensuing chaos injured more than 150 people and marked an event meant to build public support for Abiy's ambitious reform agenda. State-run Ethiopian news agency reported police had arrested 6 people suspected of involvement in the blast, but gave few details. Event organizer Seyumta's home on Saturday said police grappled with someone attempting to hurl a grenade at the Prime Minister as he concluded his speech. He said the explosive detonated amid a scuffle, though most of the injuries were caused in an ensuing panic. No group has publicly claimed responsibility for the attack, a rare instance of violence in the heavily policed capital. Grenade attacks were reported last year in the northern city of Gondar, but it was unclear if those incidents were connected to Saturday's blast. Abiy took office in April after years of anti-government unrest that pushed his predecessor to resign and the government to declare a nationwide state of emergency. He has since announced plans to liberalize the economy and reconcile with neighboring archenemy, Eritrea. Abiy also lifted the state of emergency and released scores of jailed dissidents. Ethiopia is completely controlled by the secretive Ethiopia People's Revolutionary Democratic Front, and it is unclear how much support Abiy has within the party. The 42-year-old former government minister and army officer is the first prime minister in modern Ethiopia from the country's largest ethnicity, the Oromo, which spearheaded the anti-government protest. The 42-year-old former government minister and army officer is the first prime minister in modern Ethiopia from the country's largest ethnicity, the Oromo, which spearheaded the anti-government protest. While Abiy is popular, anti-government fervor still remains. After the prime minister's hasty departure following the blast, people swarmed the stage where he had spoken and chanted, "Down, down, Moyan," an anti-government slogan aimed at the Tigrayan ethnic minority many Ethiopians believe dominates the EPRDF. French President Emmanuel Macron says that France has no lessons to take from anyone on the issue of migrants because it is the second host country for asylum seekers this year, a reply to critics in Rome.
Sur ce sujet, la France n'a d'ailleurs de leçons à recevoir de personne. Nous sommes le deuxième pays d'accueil des demandeurs d'asile cette année. Et c'est dans cet esprit, pour ma part, que je veux avancer avec tous les collègues qui sont prêts, en responsabilité, à proposer une solution qui respecte notre histoire, nos droits et nous permette de progresser.
Up next, Palestine Liberation Organization Secretary General reacts to Jared Kushner's declarations. A firefighter says the Glasgow Art School fire is a devastating loss. Eagle News Washington, D.C. will return in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Palestine Liberation Organization Secretary General Saeb Erekat reacts to the declarations of U.S. President Donald Trump's advisor Jared Kushner during a press conference in the West Bank city of Ramallah. U.S. President Donald Trump's advisor Jared Kushner on Sunday questions the ability and willingness of Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas to make concessions for a peace agreement with Israel. Kushner's remarks, made in a rare interview with Palestinian newspaper Al-Quds, came as he and Special Envoy Jason Greenblatt were in the region to advance efforts to renew the stalled Israeli-Palestinian peace process. The U.S. duo have not met with Palestinian officials who froze all contact with U.S. officials following the Trump administration's December recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Kushner said, quote, "President Abbas says that he is committed to peace and I have no reason not to believe him. However, I do question how much President Abbas has the ability to, or is willing to, lean into finishing a deal." Kushner said Abbas has his talking points, which have not changed in the last 25 years. There has been no peace deal achieved in that time. According to the Premier's office, Kushner and Greenblatt met on Friday with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss advancing the diplomatic process developments in the region and the security and humanitarian situations in Gaza. The White House said they held a second meeting Saturday night to continue their discussions. The visit comes after a flare-up of hostilities between Israel and the Hamas-ruled Gaza Strip. Israel pounded Hamas targets in response to a barrage of rockets and mortar shells, while troops have killed over 130 Palestinians taking part in clashes on the fringes of demonstrations. Speaking at his Sunday cabinet meeting, Netanyahu said the U.S. official fully supported our position and actions to ensure the security of Israel and its civilians around Gaza. The Palestinians have been infuriated by Trump's policies and see East Jerusalem as their future capital, insisting the status of the disputed city is an issue to be negotiated between them and the Israelis. Senior Palestinian official and chief negotiator Saev Erekat said Sunday that Kushner's interview showed there's nothing of substance coming from the Trump administration.
أنا باعتقادي الهدف من جولة السيد كوشنير والسيد جرينبلات هذه المرة ارتكزت إلى 3 ركائز. الركيزة الأولى إسقاط وملف اللاجئين عبر تدمير وكالة غوث وتشغيل اللاجئين أنوروا. الآن الأمر الثالث هو التمهيد للحديث عن إثارة البلبلة والقلاقل في الضفة الغربية لتغيير القيادة الفلسطينية أو لإسقاط القيادة الفلسطينية ممثلة بسيادة الرئيس محمود عباس ممثلة في منظمة التحرير الفلسطينية.
Erekat said Kushner's represents a policy of dictation rather than negotiation. It is the Trump administration that has walked away from the negotiations from international law and UN resolutions. Trump has called peace between Israel and the Palestinians the ultimate deal and has tasked Kushner with formulating a plan to that end. Kushner, who has also visited Jordan, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia on the trip, told Al-Quds they were almost done preparing the plan, which could be presented without Palestinian consent. Firefighters are left feeling a devastating sense of loss after a fire ripped through an historic building, home to a beloved art school in Glasgow. Peter Heath, a firefighter on the scene, recounts.
What we faced tonight was a very significant fire. It was spreading very rapidly. We had crews here and they were having to put in an enormous effort under extremely difficult conditions. We had members of the public. It's a busy Friday night. The town was busy. People are out enjoying themselves and there was significant danger here. The fire was spreading quickly. We needed to move very quickly and the crews have worked tirelessly to try and get on top of this. But the fire was spreading at a very quick rate and our key focus was to continue to work to try and get water on that fire. At this stage I'm pleased to report we have no report of casualties and again it's testament to the hard work and dedication of not just the fire service but other agencies working together to get cordons in place and keep the place safe. But we're not out of this yet, we remain in an operational phase.
Fire ripped through one of the world's top art schools early on Saturday as the historic building in the Scottish city of Glasgow was undergoing major restoration work following another blaze 4 years ago. Smoke and flames billowed from the Glasgow School of Art as firefighters rushed to tackle the blaze, which began at around 11:20 p.m. on Friday. The fire service said there were no casualties. First Minister Nicola Sturgeon said her heart breaks for Glasgow's beloved art school, which is housed in one of Scotland's most cherished buildings. The fire broke out 4 years after another blaze tore through the art school in May 2014, badly damaging the building, which was designed by architect Charles Rennie Mackintosh. Full steam ahead for U.S. youngsters learning the art of science. That's next. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will return shortly. This is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. I am Rose Papa Angeles. Young students in Los Angeles take part in STEAM learning, science, technology, engineering, art, and math, an innovative artistic twist on the more traditional STEM learning, as part of a partnership with education organization Genesis to combat inequalities in arts and science education. The pupils from South LA, a relatively deprived part of the city, are spending the morning in this hot house of learning, a partnership with education organization Genesis to combat inequalities in arts and science education. The youngsters have been given a whistle-top tour of the tools in the cutting-edge lab, from the industrial-grade laser cutter and 3D printer pens to the 11-foot, 3.35-meter interactive touch wall. They are tasked with dreaming up inventions that will make everyday life more convenient and fun, inspired by such innovations as the playable musical staircases seen occasionally at metro stations.
We're using the Ozo bots to collect trash and put them in these trash cans.
We're here to make like a little village for our Aussie bots to pick up the trash, because we want to make our future better.
We had some ups and downs. Like the first time we made ours, it kept on going like off of the line, so we had to make our lines thicker.
The nonprofit aims to demystify the sciences by making them fun for children, including those from privileged backgrounds would normally feel intimidated by the idea of Bunsen burners and complicated equations.
Kids, we know by our own surveys, over 90% of them have never stepped into a museum before. This is a jaw-dropping experience for them between the art and in experiencing the technology. In top private schools, they know this is the future and they're providing it. But we have an enormous disparity. We have a huge opportunity gap.
As automation increasingly does away with the need for unskilled human labor, Schlesinger warns that the days of washing dishes in a cafe or performing other menial chores to earn a living will soon be over. Over the last 15 years, the U.S. has been jolted out of its complacency on science education, with its youngsters falling far below the academic standards of Vietnamese, Korean, Japanese, Finnish, and Polish students. The American system has been playing catch-up, introducing federally funded programs, while private schools across the board have been equipping themselves with workshops boasting industrial machinery and the latest in robotic gadgetry.
I mean, we see so many artists today working with technology and science and sort of intermingling the two, and we really feel like that's the next sort of movement in art. And so bringing in the science and mixing it with the art, I think you really get a better understanding of each subject by knowing more about the other.
That is today's Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Join us tomorrow for stories that matter to you. Visit our website at eaglenews.ph and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenewsph. Thank you for watching. I am Rose Papa Angeles, and I am 1 with 25.
This is EBC Sports International. This week's stories. Mexico shocks defending World Cup champions Germany 1-0 in Group F pool play. North America hosts the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Brooks Koepka defends his U.S. Open title. Phil Donhauser, Nick Lucena, and Summer Ross, Sarah Hughes win AVP New York Open. South Africa clinches Rugby Test Series over England. Plus, the debut of the Professional Fighters League. Hello everyone, I am Lynn Pence, bringing you sports news from around the globe. Let's start with the FIFA World Cup soccer highlights. The biggest upset so far came from Mexico. who shocked defending champions and heavy favorites Germany 1-0 in Group F action in Moscow on Sunday. Riving Lozano scored the only goal in the game at the 35th minute to help Mexico defeat the powerhouse Germans. The opening round loss was a first for Germany since the 1982 World Cup. Fans celebrated the victory and had to say this.
Mucha felicidad, nunca pensamos ganarle, estamos todos felices y vamos a festejar.
Mexikaner waren heute besser, eindeutig, waren besser. Sie hätten sogar noch mehr Tore schießen können, wenn sie ein bisschen was verwandelt hätten.
Valió la pena haber venido acá y ver al equipo ganar. Ver al equipo ganar, ver entregarse y salir con buen sabor de boca y cambiar la mentalidad de ser ganadores.
The Germans hope to regroup for the next games and will play every game like it's the finals.
Das Ergebnis und die Spielweise, die können wir jetzt nicht mehr wettmachen. Auch nicht die Testspiele, die wir vorher schon gezeigt haben. Und jetzt muss natürlich von uns Spielern auch was kommen. Wir müssen wieder das zeigen, was uns so stark gemacht hat in der Vergangenheit. Und wir sind aber überzeugt davon, dass wir das können.
North America was awarded to host the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The United States, Canada, and Mexico will be the host countries of the FIFA World Cup, which beat out Morocco, voted by the FIFA member nations last week.
At the end of the day, I think the power of the unity of the three nations coming together, offering what no one nation, including myself or my own, can provide today. I think that was a very, very powerful message, and that was something that we repeated and repeated and repeated over and over again, and I think it made the difference at the end. We have 3.5, almost 4 million registered players today. We'd like to see that number double and triple. So transformational in numbers. We want to bring more resources to the game at all levels. We have a strong, multiple strong leagues. We're growing a women's league, so we want to bring a lot more attention to the sport, and we want to get the sport to being the preeminent sport after all. And we think that this works hand in hand with a lot of the demographic changes that are unfolding as we speak.
So when it came to football, when it came to our united bid, there was no question that we were all working collaboratively towards the common goal. As it relates to some of these other issues and name calling, I'm not going to comment on that. Those things come and go. The politics of today may not be the politics of next year or 5 years or 8 years down the road.
The World Cup will return on North American soil for the first time since 1994. Up next, Brooks Koepka defends the U.S. Open title. And Phil Donhauser, Nick Lucena, and Summer Ross, Sarah Hughes win the AVP New York Open. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is EBC Sports International. Defending a championship title is difficult feature to accomplish, but American golfer Brooks Koepka did it and became the first player to repeat as U.S. Open champion since Curtis Strange in 1988 to 1989. EBC New York correspondent Rod Delapaz reports from Shinnecock Hills Golf Course in Southampton, New York. Take a look.
Shinnecock Hills Golf Club, located in Long Island, New York, was founded in 1891 and currently stands as the only golf course to host the U.S. Open Championship in 3 different centuries. Despite its beautiful landscape of rolling hills and a blissful breeze on a hot, sunny day, most of the elite players of the U.S. Open Championship, the best of the best, were beat up and sent home, missing the cut for the weekend. All eyes on Tiger Woods, shooting 10 over par for the qualifying rounds. Jordan Spieth also misses the cut at 9 over, Rory McIlroy at 10 over, Bubba Watson at 11 over, and Jason Day at 12 over par. Tommy Fleetwood of England steals a little of the spotlight by shooting a 7-under 63 on the final day, finishing only one stroke behind the leader. But it was the fortitude and determination of last year's US Open champion, Brooks Koepka, who staged a 75, 66, 72, and 68 to edge out world's #1 ranked Dustin Johnson, who lost his 4-stroke lead on the third day. Golf fans certainly had their fill this past week and still have 2 more majors to look forward to in 2018. Who will be our next major champion winner? From Shinnecock Hills Golf Club, I'm Rod De La Paz, 1 with 25.
Thanks, Rod. Pro beach volleyball players Phil Donhauser, Nick Lucena, and Summer Ross, Sarah Hughes captured the New York Open title, the second tournament of the APV this season. Here's EBC New York correspondent Tenny Sumag with the recap from Hudson River Park. Take a look.
We're at Pier 2526 in the heart of Lower Manhattan, New York for the AVP New York Open.
Beach volleyball comes to the Big Apple. The New York Open, the second stop of the Association of Volleyball Professionals Tour, featuring several elite pros on the circuit. Fans enjoyed this free public event with scenic views of New York City's Lower Manhattan and New Jersey across the Hudson River. Number 1 seed and 2016 champions Phil Dalhausser and Nick Lucena claimed this year's men's title, defeating defending champions Jake Gibb and Taylor Crabb 21-16, 21-17. On the women's draw, Summer Ross and partner Sarah Hughes beat 5th-seeded Nicole Brana and Brandy Wilkerson 21-14, 21-19. All winners received $200,000 in prize money. The AVP Tour is the U.S. premier beach volleyball organization, which also tours in Austin, Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago, the famous Southern California beaches of Manhattan and Redondo, and Hawaii. Next stop for the players will be the Seattle Open from June 21st to 24th.
Reporting from Lower Manhattan in New York, I'm Tenny Samagi, 1 with 25.
Thanks, Tenny. Coming up, South Africa clinches the Rugby Series test over England and the debut of the Professional Fighters League. That's next. EBC Sports International will return in a moment. And we're back. This is EBC Sports International. I am Lynn Pence. South Africa clinched the Rugby Test Series 2-0 with a 23-12 victory over England in the Bloemfontein, South Africa on Saturday. Trailing by 12 early on, the South Africa climbed to 13-12 halftime lead and dominated all throughout the second half.
I think we got our composure back quicker than last week, and I think that's a positive. Last week when we went down with 7 points, we just continued for about 22 minutes to go that way, and I think this week was a little bit quicker where the guy realized where the mistakes were. It was still a lot of mistakes, but again, I thought the character the guy showed was enough to win the game.
Started the game well. It was a bit like a horror movie, wasn't it? Almost a rerun of last week. And we made errors in different areas of the game today, and we're trying to work out a solution of why we did that.
The Professional Fighters League debuted the Hulu Theater inside the world's greatest arena, Madison Square Garden. EBC New York correspondent Norman Castro reports. Take a look.
We are here at the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden as fighters from around the world face off in the inaugural season of the Professional Fighters League. Each fighter will have the chance to win $10 million in prize money and be champion of their respective weight class. Let's see which fighter has what it takes to win. One of the headlines on the main card showcased former World Series of Fighting bantamweight champion Andre Harrison. He showed why he was one of the favorites to win the first season of the PFL in his dismantling of his opponent Jumabiek Turshin and gaining 3 points towards his playoff standings. Not one, but two former World Series of Fighting champions were on display at the Hulu Theater. Lance Palmer tried to show why he deserved to be crowned champion against Bekbulat Magomedov. He wooed the crowd with a slick takedown into a rear naked choke for a decisive win in the second round, scoring him 5 points towards his playoff standings. After watching the inaugural regular season kickoff for the Professional Fighters League, it is safe to say that a split second can decide everything. Both cheers and tears filled the Hulu Theater as one fighter's hand was raised and the other hung down. Both winners and losers have to switch their focus as they continue their road to the playoffs. Reporting from Hulu Theater in Madison Square Garden, located in New York City, I am Norman Castro, 1 with 25.
Thank you, Norman. That is this week's EBC Sports International. Tune in next time for more news from around the globe. I am Lynn Pence, and I am 1 with 25.